Thank you so much. That was a lovely.
This meeting is being recorded.
Right. I'd like to start by reading a poem by Philip Larkin called Obad, because I wrote an imitation of that poem in the sense, not so much in its content, but in its structure. I sort of imitated it exactly, the rhyme scheme, the stanza lengths, and the numbers of stanzas. And I did it because I found I was very interested in, well, hesitant men, like Larkin's fictional character, Mr. Bleeny, and like T.S. Eliot's fictional character, what's his name?
Prufrock.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Prufrock, and of course Hamlet, another hesitant character, and then the narrator of my poem is also a hesitant character, and I got the idea of it not just from reading Larkin's poem, but from those words in the Revelations in the Bible. I think it's from Revelations, which says something like, so because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. And I took the phrase lukewarm, and because Luke's also a person's name, I called my character lukewarm, but I spelled warm, W-A-R-M-E, just to make it sound more of a name. And so I tried to jumble all these characters together in one poem, structured exactly like Larkin's Obad, which of course is a paradoxical poem because Obad means the morning, and Larkin's poem is all about death. So it kind of exemplifies the paradox that you need light to cast a shadow. So I'll read Larkin's poem first, and then I'll read mine straight afterwards. Obad. I work all day and get half drunk at night. Waking at 4 to soundless dark, I stare. In time, the curtain edges will grow light. Till then, I see what's really always there. Unresting death. A whole day nearer now. Making all thought impossible, but how and where and when I shall myself die. Arid interrogation. Yet the dread of dying and being dead flashes afresh to hold and horrify. The mind blanks at the glare, not in remorse, the good not done, the love not given, time torn off unused, nor wretchedly because an only life can take so long to climb clear of its wrong beginnings and may never, but at the total emptiness forever, the sure extinction that we travel to and shall be lost in always, not to be here, not to be anywhere, and soon. Nothing more terrible, nothing more true. This is a special day of being afraid. No trick dispels. Religion used to try, that vast moth-eaten musical brocade created to pretend we never die, and specious stuff that says no rational being can fear a thing it will not feel, not seeing that this is what we fear. No sight, no sound, no touch or taste or smell, nothing to think with, nothing to love or link with, the anesthetic from which none come round. And so it stays just on the edge of vision, a small unfocused blur, a standing chill that slows each impulse down to indecision. Most things may never happen. This one will. And realization of it rages out in furnace fear when we are caught without people or drink. Courage is no good. It means not scaring others. Being brave lets no one off the grave. Death is no different whined at than withstood. Slowly, light strengthens and the room takes shape. It stands plain as a wardrobe, what we know, have always known, know that we can't escape, yet can't accept. One side will have to go. Meanwhile, telephones crouch, getting ready to ring in locked-up offices, and all the uncaring, intricate, rented world begins to rouse. The sky is white as clay, with no sun. Work has to be done. Postmen, like doctors, go from house to house. And then, now my poem, as I said, is written exactly like Larkin's in terms of its structure. And the content is linked because it's about hesitant men. It's called The Sickening of Lukewarm. Luke's tragedy, it's plain enough to see, since haven't you and haven't I been there, was his weakness for Christianity, which taught him how to hope, how to despair. The hope of everlasting life denied me hope of selflessness on earth, he cried. I might as well have been a Hamlet clowning, or Jesus with his paradoxes, boxes inside boxes inside boxes. I who witnessed Ophelia drowning. And you can write down this, poor Luke then said. Write down that what I witnessed was a birth and not a... I don't deny that she was dead when they packed her putrid in the earth, sprinkled with pansies, violets and rue, too many courtiers, mourners too few. My birth, you understand? A rebirth, I mean. Shakespeare and his paradoxes, boxes inside boxes inside boxes. Everlasting life's not worth a bean unless it's Jack's, because then there's still a risk. Don't look at me. I merely write it down. Serpent reader, eyes like a basilisk. It's Claudius, not I, who wears the crown. All that is I write, neither hot nor cold, my dear John, neither timorous nor bold. As I was saying, I wanted to be devoted to my fellow human being, unreflecting, engrossed, not foreseeing. So I renounced my immortality. The rest is silence, but for one thing more, Luke's comedy, like yours, old friend, and mine, and whoever makes the beds at Elsinore, is diabolical and divine. There'll still be hope, and still there'll be despair, whoever runs her fingers through your hair. But when the spirit vomits lukewarm out, old Possum and his paradoxes, boxes inside boxes inside boxes, he'll get to his feet, shake himself and shout, no hope have I of everlasting life, most selfish, mean, ungenerous hope of all. I give my purse to my enemy's wife. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Paul. I risk my life for a stranger drowning, risk my morals for a villain clowning. I am philanthropic, altruistic. When I'm humbled, exalted, exalted, at which point poor Luke faltered, fell forward, falling the fall, and was sick. Okay, so then what I'd like to read next is also something kind of unusual and also connected to another poet. In this case, Dorothy Wordsworth. When I read her her journals some years ago, I picked up what I thought of as a subtext, which I kind of brought to the fore by writing what's called a pastiche. In other words, the poem is written in 3-line stanzas, and it's very much close to being a prose poem, which is not typical of my writing. But every single word in this pastiche is Dorothy Wordsworth's. But I've I've sort of structured them so that another message comes out of her journals. I'm not going to say what that message is. I leave it to you. So now I'll read it. Dorothy recollects a pastiche. Lingering with Coleridge in the garden, pulled a basket of peas and broiled Coleridge a mutton chop. The beauty of the moon was startling as it rose to us. Bowels bad. A thorough wet day, baking and starching. Coleridge ate nothing to cure his boils. Copied poems for the LB. William out of spirits. I read German till late. The moonshine like herrings in the water. Coleridge had a sweet day for his ride. Dear, dear fellow. At last I eased my heart by weeping. Nervous blubbering, William says. I stayed at home and clapped the small linen, mended William's stockings while he worked at the ruined cottage and made himself ill. I went to the other bed with toothache. A heart-rending letter from Coleridge. Mary and William walked to the boathouse at Rydal. Every horned cow puts me in terror. Took laudanum. An unusual softness in the prospect. A rich yellow upon the fields. A soft grey purple on the waters. The clouds were moveless. Made me more than half a poet. William worked at the cuckoo poem. I sewed beside him. The fire flutters, the watch ticks. I hear nothing else save the breathing of my beloved. A blessed hour. I must wash myself then off. No letters. I expected one fully from Coleridge. But as I climbed the moss, the moon came out. Oh, the unutterable darkness of the sky and the earth below the moon. It gave me exquisite feelings. I got tea when I reached home, read Spencer, while he made a pillow of my shoulder. A cropped ash with upright forked branches like the devil's horns, frightening a guilty conscience. William observed that the full moon above a dark fir grove's a fine image of the descent of a superior being. On Monday, my brother William was married to Mary Hutchinson. William had parted from me upstairs. I gave him the wedding ring, with how deep a blessing. He took it from my forefinger, where I had worn it the whole of the night before. He slipped it again onto my finger and blessed me fervently. I kept myself as quiet as I could. But when it was over, I could stand it no longer and threw myself on the bed, where I lay in stillness. I prevailed upon William to go up with me to the ruins. We left Mary sitting by the kitchen fire. Poor Mary. William fell asleep, lying upon my breast. Near fainting and very bad in my bowels. Put books in order. Put aside dear C's letters. I walked out, my head aching. The moon hung like a gold ring snapped in two. I have been beside him ever since tea, repeating some of his sonnets, listening to his own repeating, reading Milton's. Mary is in the parlor, baking cakes. So those are a couple of my experimental poems. And now I'd like to read you a few of my recent poems. And just bear in mind that these are the poems of a 75-year-old man. When I was young, I loved Broadway musicals. I loved the melodies and the lyrics. I also loved nonsense poems. And that experience, I think, is coming back to me now in my old age, in the poems I write. They're getting more and more like the lyrics of Broadway songs. Okay, the first one, and he's well quite recent, I think, is called Sewage Dam. He fell into the tepid soup. It smelled of scales and snails and tails. A current formed a hula hoop and spun him down past winking drails, past farting barbel, drifting wood, past eels and heels and rusted keels, past signs of evil and of good, of equity and dirty deals. There, riding on a deep terrene, wadded with mud and blood and cud, its floating hair an algae green, its fingernails ingrained with crud, a mermaid of the southern wild, calling and bawling and squalling, it mouthed, I know you, you're the child who drowned. I watched you falling. And the next one's called I Know a Toddler. I know a toddler, 2/3 elf. Her name is Fleur de Lis. Her clothes are purchased off the shelf or handed down for free. She keeps a pet, a tabby cat, with eyes like Catherine wheels. A toffee tin goes rat-a-tat to detonate their reels. I watch them dancing by the light of a glowworm on a leaf and take a turn in their delight, acute for being brief. We foot it featly round and round, stepping 1, 2, 3. This elfin child is heaven bound, and her name is Fleur de Lis. Well, the next one's called Injured Eagle Owl. On her back, her body struck by the rear view mirror of a pickup truck. I try to fold the errant wing, to lift it gently. No such luck. Those eyes, twin suns at midnight staring, swiveling Pharos lighthouse glaring, warns me with a snapping cluck, and I, though caring, not quite daring. Those talons take my hands for toads, my knees for hapless megapodes. No censure though, no laying of blame, no wondering what the thing forebodes. I found a branch to shove her wide, of busy traffic on either side. I thought I heard her call my name as her light, fading, flickered and died. Now the next one is a sonnet called Bird Spirits. There's lots of allusions to Shakespeare's Macbeth in this poem. The crow that made wing to the rooky wood makes wing to a stand of mapani trees, to feast not on concepts of evil and good, but the mid-guts of childhood memories. The raven that croaked at the door to her den is the raven that croaks at Jessie Hotel, not to ponder the schemes of mice and men, but singular notions of heaven and hell. The owl that shrieked at the turn of the gyre when witches prevailed all over the land shrieks now, but not for the shock of desire, for the look of an eye and the touch of a hand. Swallows that nested in the castle of doom still nest in your hair, on your lips, in your womb. Okay, the next one is called In Support of the Binary, and it's a villanelle. This is controversial. You need 2 stones to make a fire. Your brain is not a hemisphere. Bifurcation sparks desire. God be true, but every man a liar. Who strokes the kitten hurts the steer. You need 2 stones to make a fire. The sweetest rose begot of briar adorns the tresses of my dear. Bifurcation sparks desire. Turning, returning, life's a gyre. Who holds a giggle, lets a tear. You need 2 stones to make a fire. Work the lyric, play the lyre. Dame Pertelot taunts Chanticleer. Bifurcation sparks desire. Inspire, expire, inspire, expire. Courage is the child of fear. You need 2 stones to make a fire. Bifurcation sparks desire. And my next one is another villanelle. It's called valedictory. Familiarity, it breeds content. Don't wander, dear. Don't wander by the way. No cause, no cause, no just impediment. Consider how the poet's light is spent. Don't leave, or leave, but wait another day. Familiarity, it breeds content. Not blind like Milton, that's not what I meant, but inspiration fading. Won't you stay? No cause, no cause, no just impediment. On plate and pillow, peculiar scent, eyes not blue, not lilac, not mournful grey. Familiarity, it breeds content. To wander under trees is your intent. A green discovery, a green display, no cause, no cause, no just impediment. You came, you saw, you held me tight, you went. I watched the kiss of ringlets, golden play. Familiarity, it breeds content. No cause, no cause, no just impediment. This next one's called The Keeper at the Gate. In this fragmented world of pain, where sorrow comes and comes again, look to the child, look to the wild, look to the texture in the grain. In this fragmented world of bliss, where joy is ignited with a kiss, look to the freckle, look to the speckle, look to the love in loveliness. In order to accelerate, some frictions necessitate. Look to the urge, look to the surge, look to the keeper at the gate. And this one now is called moonwalking. I once went walking to the moon. I chose to go at night, for that is when the sky's balloon switches on its light. I wore my tackies, for that road was starred with paper thorn, before the Hammurabi Code, before the Christ was born. I wore the jersey knit for me some centuries ago, of lanolin and rosemary, a stitch in every row. And as I walked, I sang a song. It gave my steps a spring. It wasn't short, it wasn't long. For moonwalks, just the thing. And the next one's called Generations. A little child will always find a toy to give her peace of mind, a toy to shoo the bats away, a toy forever and a day, to hug, to comb, to swing, to wind. An aging man will sometimes look for flowers pressed inside a book, a yellow daisy turning brown, slow decline of an earthly crown, a testament that he forsook. A child may navigate the lap of dotage stirring from a nap, may share with him her fluffy toy, initiate a flush of joy, and close the generation gap. And then my last one, and you'll hear a couplet that I repeated in my first poem, the one that replicates Larkin's Obeid. It's called The Riddler of Ephesus, which is a reference to Heraclitus. I read this after reading Olive Schreiner's novel, Story of an African Farm. The feather that drops on a dying rat from a great white bird in the distant sky, blue as the eyes of a Siamese cat, forget-me-nots on an old straw hat, is the symbol of lies that do not lie. Heraclitus and his paradoxes, boxes inside boxes inside boxes. The feather that drops in a dying man from a great black bird in the distant sky, loud as the clang of a watering can, sticks on the vellum go rataplan, is the symbol of lies that do not lie. Heraclitus and his paradoxes, boxes inside boxes inside boxes. The feather that drops on a living child from a great grey bird in the distant sky, soft as a pillow stuffed with down, ostrich plumes of a duster's crown, is the symbol of lies that do not lie. And that is that. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, John. Can we all unmute and give John a round of applause, please? Thank you so much, John. That was thoroughly, that was so much fun. I enjoyed all of the poems, and in particular, I enjoyed the contrast of that first poem that you read when you began your reading. I'm very curious about the subtext in the second poem. I really did enjoy the use of contrast throughout that first poem. Hesitant Men, I think that was the title.
No, it's called The Sickening of Lukewarm.
Oh, The Sickening of Lukewarm.
Yeah, he's the fictional character that represents hesitant men.
Yeah, so I found that interesting. I thought that poem was very successful. You might be experimenting, but I thought it was a very successful experiment.
It's, I've done it a few times. I imitated the form of a famous poem with my sort of humble poem that's to put next to it. Yeah, it's all sorts of ironies.
Yeah,
it's a form of illusion. It's a form of intertextuality, you know.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So are there any questions or comments in the room? Any questions, burning questions and comments for John? There seem to be no questions and there seem to be no comments. Are there, am I missing?
Wrong one. I can't seem to find my hand.
No, we can hear you, Charles. You can go ahead.
Sorry, I was trying to find my hand on here. It seems to have disappeared. I don't know what's going on with my phone. It's really doing its own thing. So, yes, John.